Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Read Aloud with Miss Co. I'm so glad to see you on this Monday morning. It looks like it's going to be another beautiful day, even though this weekend was a little rainy. I hope you still got a chance to go out and get some fresh air and enjoy your weekend. I'm glad we're back reading with the Might of Angels by Andrea Davis Pinkney, and I do have permission from Scholastic to read this to you today. Let's get started so we can read as much as we can with the time we have. Last time we left off, Dawnie was able to meet a few of her teachers, which she didn't have a very great experience with. It seems like her teachers weren't treating her fairly and didn't really want her in the classroom. So I wonder if, as we read today, Dawnie finds a teacher that she really likes. All right, Wednesday, October 13th, 1954, diary book. I like my history teacher, Mr. Dunphy. He's different than the other teachers at Prettyman. For one thing, he's young and wears sweaters, not a jacket and tie like every other man teacher at school. Mr. Dunphy is definitely not from Hadley. He is no doubt from north of here. He greets everyone with a handshake as we enter his classroom, even me. And he addresses each of us by name while shaking our hands. Mr. Dunphy talks funny, though. Not the same kind of funny as that lady in the black dress. He stretches my name like he's pulling a long rubber band. Dawnie. He tells the class to pay attention so that later we can go out into the schoolyard. I think he means schoolyard. I don't care what it's called because I won't be going there anytime soon. And I don't care that Mr. Dunphy puts a northern spin on my southern name. Thursday, October 14th, 1954, diary book. This evening, just past supper, Mr. Sutter from the dairy came calling on Daddy. Daddy stepped onto the porch. Mr. Sutter kept a distance between them. He was holding a lantern. While Daddy and Mr. Sutter spoke quietly, Mama and Goober washed dishes in the kitchen. I went out on the porch. Daddy said, "Go back inside, Dawnie." He was holding a lantern too, close to his face. I disobeyed Daddy, though. He didn't know it. I went inside but stayed near to the door screen, where I watched and listened to the two men talking. "Evening, Curtis," Mr. Sutter said. He never once took his eyes off Daddy. Daddy was cordial, but careful too. "Something you need from me, Mr. Sutter? How's your family?" Mr. Sutter asked. Daddy raised his lantern. "We're getting on fine." "You find work yet?" Mr. Sutter wanted to know. Daddy shook his head. "I'm looking." Mr. Sutter's lantern lit the hollows of his face. Daddy asked his question again. "Something you need from me?" Mr. Sutter's voice got low. "These are uncertain times, Curtis," he said quietly. "Keep an eye on your wife and young'uns." Daddy wiped the top of his lip with the back of his hand. "Always do," he said. Goober called me then. "Dawnie, come dry the plates." Mr. Sutter said good night. "Night," said Daddy. Friday, October 15th, 1954, diary book. Yolanda visited today after school. She had her dominoes box under one arm. "Dawnie, want to do dominoes?" "Can't," I said. "I gotta study. I'm taking history and context and algebraic reasoning and biology now." I showed Yolanda the paper that listed my class lessons, and I let her see my science book. "Want to touch it?" "It's different from what we had at Bethune. It's new." Yolanda gave me the stink eye. She looked at me like I smelled bad. She said, "You're different from what we had at Bethune." Sunday, October 17th, 1954, diary book. After church today, Daddy spent much of the afternoon buried in the want ads, looking for jobs. I heard him tell Mama, all this man wants to do is support his family. Tuesday, October 19th, 1954, diary book. The best part of this day was seeing Waddle, my raccoon friend. When Daddy and I walked to school, she seemed to be waiting for us when we got to Mrs. Thompson's garden. I think that raccoon's smarter than most. Her eye rings are sure beautiful. At school, I put up with more not being called on in math, being picked on in English class, and being stared at every place else. By the time I got home, my tree mop had never looked so good. As soon as I was done with my homework, I got my bat and swung. The mop did a wild dance on its rope. I batted righty, then lefty, then righty again, twice as fast. I didn't think that mop could get any more raggedy, but I beat the strings out of that thing. Saturday, October 23rd, 1954, diary book. Goober disappeared today. I was helping Mama hang the wash Goober had been hitting at the tree mop, but then he was gone just like that. Mama noticed first. "Where'd your brother get to?" she called out, but there was no answer. "Goober, come on, child." I helped. "Goob?" When Mama called a second time and there was no answer, she dropped her laundry basket. There was worry yanking at Mama's face. "Goober!" Daddy hurried from inside, calling Goober through cupped hands. "He was playing over there by the tree," I told Daddy. The tree mop swung slowly. "Our front gate is still closed, so Goober can't be far off," Daddy said, but he didn't look so sure. All three of us called after Goober. We looked for him in the cellar and underneath the porch and behind Mama's porch rocker. My pogo stick was where I'd last left it at the fence post, so I knew Goober had not been playing with it. Mama's hand was pressed to her cheek. She was praying, "Lord God, Lord God." Daddy told us to all be quiet for a moment. "Stay on the porch," he said to Mama and me. Daddy stood very still, like when he watches a cardinal or a bullfinch settle on the top of our yard's tree. Mama sat at the edge of the porch step. She was rocking and praying silently. I stood by the porch post holding on. A ladybug could have whispered then, and we would have heard every word. That's why the rustle pushing out from the pile of leaves in the corner of our yard drew each of us to it. And that's why I was the first to spot Goober. Hiding in the bundle of brown, he buried himself in the leaf pile. "Goob!" I shouted. "Oh, Goob!" Goober flung himself free of the leaves. "Surprise!" There was crisp patches of brown and yellow hanging onto Goober's sweater by their stems. Dirt spots marked his elbows. He was blowing leaf pieces from his lips, and he was all full of giggles. His arms stretched high above his head. "I'm a tree!" Mama rushed to Goober. Daddy was right behind. "Me too." To Goober, this was all so funny, but not to us. Tuesday, October 26, 1954, diary book. Sometimes when a special news story catches Daddy's eyes, he likes to read it out loud. This morning was one of those times. He plunged himself into the Hadley Register. He said to Mama, "Loretta, listen to this mess." Mama filled Daddy's coffee cup before he continued. He gulped once, then he read. First came the headline. State Corporation Commission certifies defenders of state sovereignty and individual liberties. Daddy took in more coffee. He read the article next. The Defenders of State Sovereignty and Individual Liberties, grassroots political organization dedicated to preserving strict racial segregation in Virginia's public schools, has been formed in Petersburg. Robert B. Crawford of Farmville has been named president of the organization. Several prominent Southside Virginia leaders, including state senators Charles Moses and Garland Gray, U.S. congressmen, Watkins Abbott, and William Tuck, newspaper editor J. Barrow Wall of Farmville Herald, have begun to hold meetings at a Pittsburgh firehouse to devise ways of fighting the threat of public school integration. Mama brought Daddy more cream for his coffee. She stirred it in while he read. It is the hope of these men to build a segregationist organization that will advocate for whites, the way the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, has advocated for blacks. The formation of this group comes just months after the landmark Supreme Court ruling in the Brown v. Board of Education case, citing segregated schools as unconstitutional. Daddy set down his newspaper. He asked Mama, "What about our individual liberties?" Saturday, October 30th, 1954, diary book. I helped Mama shell peas all morning. We sat on our porch. Our street was quiet from a Saturday. With the weather cooling, less folks strolled on weekends. Mama's raw-skinned fingers worked quickly. Separating peas from their pods is harder than working open a shoelace knot. Peas can be stubborn. They like to hang on. I stuck with it alongside Mama till every pea was free. Mama hummed quietly. It was a song I knew. Precious Lord, take my hand. Sunday, October 13th, 1954, diary book. You can't see clouds in the dark, but you can sure feel them. I knew from the heavy smell in the air that it would rain this Halloween night. There was no moon. Mama made Goober and me wear our raincoats. That messed up our costumes. I was dressed as Jackie Robinson. Mama had sewn Jackie's number 42 onto one of Daddy's old work shirts, but you couldn't see Jackie's number underneath my raincoat. Thankfully, Mama had embroidered Brooklyn Dodgers on my baseball cap. Goober was dressed as a peanut, a costume Mama and I had built with chicken wire, brown butcher paper, and lots of flour water paste. Mama had even made peanut shoes for Goober from old bedroom slippers she'd shined with shoe polish. Before tonight, I had never seen a peanut wearing a raincoat and slippers. Somehow, Goober managed to get his slicker onto his arms. It pulled tight across the back of his costume, but had no chance of buttoning up around his front. Yolanda was dressed as Lena Horne. In every picture I've ever seen of Lena Horne, not one of them shows her in a dress made for a bedsheet like the one Yolanda's mother had decorated with buttons made to look like rhinestones. Each of us carried a pillowcase for collecting candy. You scared of Haints? Yolanda asked as we set out down Moretta Street. Heck no, I said. I don't believe in Haints, spooks, goblins, or ghosts even. The only ghoul that scares me is the panic monster. I didn't tell this to Yolanda. Mama and Daddy had told us not to go past Crossland Avenue for trick-or-treating, and to make sure we went no place near Ivoryton. When we got to the corner near Crossland, I told Yolanda it was time to turn back, time to head home. Ivoryton was right up ahead. I got 2 pennies in my treats bag, Goober said. 2 shiny pennies. From behind us, we heard somebody making fun of Goober, repeating after him in a baby voice, 2 shiny pennies. It was the Hatch brothers. Bobby, Cecile, and Jeb. They came up on all sides of us. Bobby was dressed as a cowboy. Cecile was a scarecrow. Jeb's Dracula cape stopped at his knees. What in the Sam Hill kind of costume is that? Jeb was talking to Goober. He tried to walk past the boys, but only got a few steps. They blocked us from going further. Bobby and Cecile bumped shoulders. They laughed. Hey, Negro retard, what are you supposed to be? I prayed Goober would just not answer and keep walking, but of course he had to say something. I'm not Sam Hill. I'm a peanut. The brothers laughed. Harder. You're a what? They teased. A peanut, Goober said simply. You mean a blackie nut? Said Bobby. Yolanda surprised me then. She dropped her pillowcase, hooked arms with me and Goober, and shoved us past the hatches. Run, she hollered, holding tight. Lena Horne sure can move. Yolanda's dress flickered against the circles of light set down by the street lamps. Goober slowed us up. Peanuts made from butcher paper and wire can't go fast. The boys came after us, hurling eggs. Me and Yolanda held firm onto Goober, who was between us. Run, Goob, run, I encouraged. Jeb mimicked me. Run, Poop, run. The panic monster was out on Halloween, dressed as himself. Shaboodle shaking me all over. Eggs flew, some just missing our feet, some smacking at our backs. The thunder came. Yolanda tripped on the hem of her sheet skirt, but kept going. When we turned onto Maycott Street, the hatches stopped. That's the heart of Crow's Nest, I heard one of them say. Pa says to never go there. At the steps of our porch, Goober fell forward hard. He was nowhere near to being hurt. His peanut shell had protected him. His feet wiggled out of the bottom of his costume. He lost a slipper. Lena Horne checked the hem on her sheet. Then it rained. Wow. What an experience on a Halloween night for Dawnie and Goober and Yolanda. It's unfortunate that some people want to pick on you for the way you look, right? And back then where there was segregation, people would pick on you just for the color of your skin, right? And it sounds like organizations like the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, are doing things to help people of color. And there's people that are fighting that. Now there's a group of white people who are trying to tear down integration of schools. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen tomorrow. I will meet you here in the same spot. I will see you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Toodles.